Welcome back to JKMoto Podcast, a weekly motorcycle podcast for the everyday rider, covering current bike and racing news, specializing in track days, club racing, and great entertainment. We truly do it all. And this week we are brought to you by Working Class Customs, which is a custom fabrication shop out of northern Utah. You can direct any further questions on that to Cole.
And I'm Cole.
And I'm Easton. We are your two favorite hosts of your favorite weekly motorcycle podcast. You know, Cole, if you popped on and this was the first ever podcast episode that you listened to, how long do you think it would take you to get to know you?
I think it'd take a long time because you're over there being analytical and shit and never letting me talk.
Analytical? What do you mean?
You heard me. I stand by my words.
All right. Well, hey, Cole rides motorcycles. I also ride motorcycles.
Man, I ride motorcycles every time I can. There's motorcycles everywhere. Eat, sleep, breathe, repeat, motorcycles.
And work.
Yeah. And work.
Got to pay for the motorcycles somehow. But yeah. Eat, sleep, breathe, motorcycles.
You know, I was just before I got on here, I was reading something about dopamine and how a lack of dopamine in your life can do this, and we'll get into some doctor stuff and da-da-da-da-da. Actually, we won't. But anyway.
Definitely not.
I'm telling you what, man. This is a drug. I think we're steering people wrong. I'm not sure we're doing the right thing here. I don't know that I can hold my head high anymore and say that we're doing what's right for the people.
Well, I don't know if you knew this or not, but I wasn't ever trying to do what's right by the people. I'm just trying to get them addicted so that my sport can continue.
I'll tell you what, we can talk to the guests some more about that, but I'll tell you what, the Monday morning after race weekend, the down is real.
It has highs, it has lows. You'll come up, you'll come back down.
That's a whole subject. That's a whole subject in itself.
Well, anyway, I think what Cole is maybe also trying to get to is the USBA as a season is done, which means that it's time for Cole to pack up for a little bit and either look at going somewhere else for the winter or call it quits for the winter. So that's why maybe that dopamine hit is really coming down because there's not another round to look forward to right now in his plans. So unless, you know, maybe we're just not let in on the secrets yet. We'll figure that out. But we do need to roll an intro. We're not going to call him a guest. Get an old friend on the podcast and talk about the USBA season that has been quite the season. So,
all right, let's roll the intro.
Yesterday at one point, I was in sixth. Miles an hour.
And we're back.
We're back. I don't really know why.
We're back because while we're waiting for that numbskull.
Old friend.
Old friend.
Emphasis on the old.
Now you made me say it. That's not nice. I can't ever get away with saying that.
Oh, man. I hope when he listens back to this, he's old.
I know, I'm old. So, what about CVMA starting right around the corner? You know that? For all you people out there,
I'm like one of the. Am I one of the people out there?
Second week of October, I'm pretty sure. Second weekend in October. 7 rounds getting ready to fire off.
Yes, the good old Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association. I have this every time. Every time I Google this, that's what it is. If anyone's wondering, the link will be down in the description because I just looked it up. But CVMARacing.com. If you just Google CVMA, you're going to get Combat Veteran Motorcycle Association. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Still motorcycle related, but October 18th. Yeah.
Second or third weekend.
Yeah. 2.5 weeks in.
Yeah, I can't do that one, so good luck to everybody. CVMA fires up. That's kind of a long season when you look at it, man. It's 7 rounds. It goes all the way into April.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly 6 months because the last round is also April 18th to the 20th. So double points for the first and last round, though. So if you're missing the first, you're done for. You're done for.
No. People can still DNF.
So what, the issue I have with CVMA, and it's not an issue. Obviously, it's great, but why? Well, not even why, but it's a motorcycle club series named after the track, right? Like Utah Sport Bike Association. If there happened to be another track in Utah, or even one outside of Utah, the Utah Sport Bike Association could go there. But CVMA is one of the few clubs that is Chuckwalla Valley Motorcycle Association. I guess it's only after the valley, not the track. Never mind. Point gone. All right, you got me.
See, there you go being analytical again, and nobody gets to know me.
Okay, cool.
You asked the question. It was a loaded question.
It was. I was just curious, in their future, is there any point and will they ever add another track to their series? There's plenty of other tracks down in Southern California.
There's also plenty of other race organizations.
That's true. All right,
I think
I'll give you that.
My opinion is the CVMA has an advantage in the fact that they're in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So some of that competition that comes there is based off of Moto America season is over. You're going to get a lot of big name riders coming down to, fill things out, keep their selves sharp,
Mm-hmm.
and people have time for that. You do it any other time of year, and they wouldn't have the time. Here's to hoping they don't get 4 out of 7 rain rounds this year in a place that has never had a rain round ever.
What a wild season last year. Yeah. Oh, man. Here's to hoping the Dunlop guy doesn't just fill his trailer with so many rain tires that he doesn't have enough slicks for everyone.
Right.
Oh, I heard a beep. Hang on, everybody. Old friend, come to the stage. Add to stage.
Go yourself.
I didn't do it, man.
I'm just saying.
And unless you watch back earlier, then I might have had something to do with it, but I didn't mean to. It was an accident.
And Jack Miller hanging out over there. I found out today that one of my snakes is a Pecco Bagnaia fan.
How so?
Do you have
Because
one
he
less
was-
snake now?
Yeah, I was
Nope.
gonna say, did it?
He was intently watching the race this morning with me on my lap, eyes up, intently watching the race. Bagnaia crashed, and he's like, "Shh," and he takes off. And
Once
I was
again,
like,
we are a spoiler show. So if you weren't looking for spoilers, sorry, there we are.
if this is, I didn't know we were playing games already. Look at us go.
Yeah. Oh, you're good.
Cool. Yeah. So Bagnaia crashed. He's a turd sandwich.
After setting 2 very, very impressive laps. But hey, before we get into MotoGP, everyone welcome our old friend Lugnut back to the show. Co-host himself, Lugnut. Before we actually dig deep into banter and MotoGP and USBA and whatever else might be happening, how do you feel about discussing a weekly riding tip with us?
I'm always down for a weekly riding tip from Josh.
Hell yeah! All right, well we'll get after it then. This week's weekly riding tip, as mentioned by Lugnut there, is brought to you by Josh Bittinger, or Bittinger Motorsports, which is private coaching to build solid riders through vision-based training. And this week, Josh has a question for everyone. And that question is it you or the bike? As you begin to push pace, you will undoubtedly encounter times when you can't do what you want to do. The bike doesn't go where you want it to. The bike pushes wide on throttle out of corner X. The bike doesn't turn in on corner Z, etc., etc. Sometimes this is an issue with the bike. Suspension setting, bike geometry, tire pressure, and a slew of other technical items may be the problem. It's always easy to blame the bike. Or the problem could lie in your riding. Maybe you aren't setting the front tire before turning. Perhaps you've got your weight too far forward mid-corner. Perhaps you're getting on the throttle too soon. To every problem, there is a solution. Learning to understand if it's you or the bike is a skill that takes time to learn. So seek out advice from seasoned riders, coaches, or suspension experts to help you decipher the difference.
Okay, if you go back and ask the first line of that, I almost cut you off.
Wow.
What was the first line of that? I'll cut you off this time.
Is it you?
Yep.
It's you.
Nailed it. I don't know, man. There's multiple sides to that coin, though, right? Like, something we'll get into. And I tried a new tire at Utah, and it was amazing, but it did things differently. And as a rider, I had to make adjustments, and so I think 99%. Wow, I don't know about 99, but we'll say a higher percentage of the time. If you're struggling with something, you're struggling with a lap time, the bike's not turning the way it should, it's probably you. Even tire wear. If you're blowing through rear tires, you're probably overslowing and over accelerating, so you're roaching that tire up pretty quick. But there's times where it's the bike too.
Mm-hmm.
I get asked a lot about suspension and putting suspension on the bike, and I know this has been a topic on this show before, but why would I make the investment for $2-3 grand to put suspension on a bike? Well, if I was a Josh Hayes or a Jason Pridmore or any of these top 1% sport bike riders, racers, maybe I could ride a stock bike off the showroom floor and qualify for a national. But I can tell you right now, I'm not that guy, and so I use suspension to help aid me and grow with me as I go. But again, I think that's more the rider than the bike, and we're just covering it up with the bike, right?
There
I think
you go.
a top-tier rider, if something's not right, they know it's them, or maybe they'll make a change to get them a little bit more comfortable.
That's a good.
Unless
that's a
you're
good
Maverick
point.
Vinales. If you're Maverick Vinales, it's always the bike.
True. That's why you blew up a Yamaha motor.
On that note, I was watching MotoGP today with a couple friends, and Aprilias were being Aprilias, and they're like, "What happened to them?" I thought Aprilia was doing good, and I just kind of laughed. I don't think I really said anything after that. I just laughed for a couple minutes, and then we moved on. Anyway, we're not here to talk about MotoGP yet. We'll get there. Sorry, we'll get there.
More on the rider tip. You or the bike? What do you think, Cole? You already answered.
So, as you know, I'm newer into this journey, and me and you have had long conversations about suspension and those kind of things on the bike. And I always have a hard time with that. I always have a hard time with, is it me or the bike? Because until I feel like I'm really just wringing everything out of something, until I feel like it's letting me down here and here and here, I'm slow to move to those things. I always just assume that the bike was made to do something, and it's my fault for not getting it there. So that's why I've been so slow to move it, to the next level that's coming, next level incoming. But that's why I'm so slow to move to it. And I finally got to a point where, we always talk about whether it's dirt bikes, which Easton's going to be pissed, but we're going to talk about dirt bikes.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about dirt bikes.
Yeah. But we
look at that face. Oh, see you, bud. Hey,
be gone.
So
and the dirt bike show.
Nah, it ain't that easy.
Back.
You ain't getting rid of me that easy.
All right. No, actually, I've got, and I don't want to cut you off, but I've got some insight regarding bike versus rider, with the dirt bike, but it's completely relatable to street bike or track bike or whatever. So, there's a place called Moto Experts in South Jordan. Where have I been driving to? South Jordan, right?
American Fork, yeah. Spanish
Fork. Way
Spanish
down there.
Fork. Okay.
I keep confusing it with South Jordan. It's way further south.
In Utah. For our listeners over in Germany, that's in Utah, which is in America.
America. So it's Spanish Fork, Utah. And I took my dirt bike there, which I'm not very good on a dirt bike. Just going to throw that out there right now because it's relevant. But I was like, hey, man, like this thing's super soft. And like if I come up a little short or a little long when I'm at the motocross track, like it's kind of almost dangerous. Like it buries the front end and I end up over the bars and then I whiskey throttle because I'm just holding on with my arms and it's just like throwing me all over the place. So he was going to put some springs in it and do something with the valving in the forks and the shock. Mm-hmm. Well, when I went to pick it up, surprise, surprise, he put all this like crazy like A-team race suspension in the thing. It's Race Tech gold valves and all this stuff. I'm like, dude, I didn't ask for that. I'm not that guy. I'm not that good, right? But I've ridden it on Friday night at the motocross track, and I rode it today. I'm kind of beat from that, but man, what a freaking difference in confidence! Like just confidence to be able to go out there and try that one jump, or rail through that one wash where it looks a little bumpy or whatever. Just knowing that the bike is going to be there to support you, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I think that when I talk about suspension and changes, and whether it's you or the bike, I think that as long as we have the bike set up to where it's supporting us as a rider, whether it's front, springs or whatever for braking, or something that's not going to like cause the rear end to constantly lose traction in a rear shock or whatever. As long as we're close with the motorcycle gearing and stuff, I think the rest of it's down to the rider.
Yeah.
But the bike can be close. The rider has to be on it, right?
All right, all right.
So,
Let me cut in here though, because you agreeably are saying that you come from road racing. Your
mhm.
the dirt bike thing is a little newer to you.
Yeah.
With that background, do you think, because obviously you've done all your suspension and all that kind of stuff on the road racing, do you think that coming from that background, is it a little more obvious on a dirt bike? Meaning, like, you're hitting your bumps, you're moving that suspension, it's right there, bam, it's hitting you, and
Oh,
hey, something needs to change. Whereas on the road racing might be a little less obvious. Is my gut
I,
feel? What say you?
I don't know. I think you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right?
Yeah.
So with the motocross bike, I was reluctant to do anything with it because I was like, well, maybe I'm just that terrible, right? Like maybe this thing. I'm sure that El Hombre could ride my KX450 way better than I can stock, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I because of my road racing experience, I was able to tell that something wasn't just right on the dirt bike. And I think with the more time I've had on the road race bike, I can tell when there's something just off with the road race bike. I think a lot of that comes from experience, but you don't have the experience until you play around with it. Like you, Cole, I know you're getting suspension on your bike soon. And some of the key things you told me is like, man, I can't brake any harder because it's diving and it's picking up the rear end and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, you just don't have enough support, and you're not going to get it out of the stock stuff with as fast as you're already going on that bike. In Easton, you're going to get to that point in no time with you doing the racing and doing more track days and then Aprilia and stuff. Like you'll get to a point where you don't realize it, but there's something left in the bike. And of course, we could back our brake markers up, and we don't have to brake as hard. So I think if you're the rider in this rider's tip, right, and you don't have the ability to make those types of changes, or maybe racing isn't your thing, and you're not going to drop $3,000 on suspension, but you're blowing through the stroke on the brakes. Well, guess what? You need to maybe change how you're riding the bike a little bit and be a little lighter and a little longer, right?
Yeah. I
So
think
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
so. I think there's an important key that both of you kind of said. But for like a brand new rider, first time out on the track, or first few track days or whatever, I think it probably is you 100%,
Yeah.
but you can set the bike up to make it, to let the bike help you more, and it's still you, right? For most people in this sport that aren't actively racing Moto America or MotoGP or whatever, we're arguably slow compared to that top 1% that you mentioned too, right? So if you know you're below that level, it is worth it to go get the bike set up for your current level. You don't necessarily need the top of the line stuff. You don't need your suspension set up exactly how those guys have it. You need it set up for you and your level. And you'll find that kind of what you mentioned of like letting the bike change with you. You have all that
Yeah.
suspension on there to change it with you as you progress. You can move it and whatever. I think that's a key note in there, is that um, you might be the problem, but if you can change the bike to work with you, then you can slowly work on your problems a little bit easier because you're not fighting the bike the entire way. Which I also think, Cole, is kind of what you were mentioning. Like you ride the bike and you're super just like, no, I just need to ride harder. I got to ride faster. Like I just got to get better or whatever it might be. But if you bring the bike, I don't want to say down to your level, but set the bike up for you at your level currently, and then let it change with you, I think you'll see quicker and better success.
Yeah,
I can agree with that.
yeah. And Anthony said earlier, El Hombre could jump on his bike and ride it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, that's arguable. But
Hey, but I'll put him in his place on the racetrack.
but I will say that I don't care if you're starting on a R3 or an R1. I don't care which one of those you're starting on. It takes a bit to really be able to flog what that bike can do in stock trim.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot to get you to that point. And to go back on something I said earlier, is it you or the bike? I've been kind of waiting for the point where obviously I'm not riding my bike to its full potential. As you said, Garrett Gerloff can get on my BMW and I'm sure, annihilate any time I'm putting out there. But it is getting more and more sections of the track where I'm asking more than the bike will give me. And so when you start to get to those points, whether that's just, the simplest example is a straightaway and you're just trying to, you're coming out of a corner as clean as you can feel like you can come out of a corner, getting on the gas as early as is possible and still getting drug on a straight. Now it's time to maybe do something about that because you're utilizing the power that the bike has and the suspension and the things and the stuff. And,
I like to say that, just a blanket statement that the bike is better than I am a rider.
Yeah.
And so I think to sum it up, like, as long as the bike's mechanically sound and not like something's way off as far as a setup or whatever, like any stock bike is pretty damn good. Like go take it to a racetrack, take it to your canyons, go ride around the street, like whatever you're doing on it, it's pretty damn good. Like you don't have to change anything. And I imagine in that trim, it's going to be more you than the bike. And even right now, if I was going out to race this weekend and I wasn't at my lap time, it's more me than the bike. I guarantee you that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that's good. Well, anyway, to kind of wrap that up, hopefully you guys can look at yourselves and realize that it is you. Or maybe it is the bike. I don't know. Maybe you're still sitting on stock suspension. You've never had it adjusted and you're wondering why it's bouncing coming out of every corner. I don't know.
Could be the leaking fork seals or whatever else I've seen on these bikes.
We don't talk about leaking fork seals here.
They never really sum it up though, because it is mostly the rider and not the bike. Why don't you guys hit up Josh Bittinger and Bittinger Motorsports for some coaching?
That's true. Yep. That is down at the bottom there. Ask a coach. Go hit him up. Link will be down in the description. He's got a lot of good stuff down there, and we definitely appreciate his weekly riding tips, and especially this one. Gives us some good topic to talk about, and hopefully gives you guys, the listeners, solid advice to chew on throughout the week. So
right. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
All right. Moving forward.
What's up?
Which direction do we want to go since we don't rehearse these shows? Do we want to head down MotoGP and knock that out, or do we want to head straight to Utah and the great track that is UMC? MotoGP. It is.
You want 13 seconds? I could do it in 13 seconds.
Well, we got to talk about fantasy.
We'll do that first, and then I'll talk about the rest.
All right, fantasy. Let's see. Hang on. I just got to check. Ooh. Yeah, we definitely have to talk about fantasy.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, look at Cole there.
Oh, yeah, we do. All right, so first up to knock out this week's weekly fantasy point leader. Can I get a drum roll from? Yeah, this week's weekly point leader is Sad Satellite. Currently holding 6th place, knocking out 154.5 points, which is quite a lot compared to anyone else up there besides the guy up in first, who got 144. Your first, second, and third are still held down by Triple Three Racing, Team Thor, and Duke. But in 8th place, currently,
you want another drum roll?
None other than myself. No, I don't want another drum roll. But I just want to point out that I'm sitting in 8th, which is nothing good. Nothing good at all. In fact, I'll say it's actually very bad. But it is right above the halfway mark. Well down below the halfway mark in 13th is this weird, I don't know who that is exactly, but it says Lugnuts. I don't know.
Do you want me to show you Lugnuts?
No.
It's a family show.
Oh, all right.
Lugnuts in 13th, and even further down the list than that, we won't talk about because he doesn't want to be talked about. So,
man, if I wasn't busy riding motorcycles, I'd spend more time playing with fantasy. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, I'm too poor to ride motorcycles, so I just play with fantasy.
You know what pissed me off last week, though?
What is that?
I went and I made some changes and some trades,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I locked them in.
Oof.
And then I looked back afterwards, and they weren't locked in. But I had boosted Martin as part of that whole situation, and Martin ended up trying to swap for his rain bike or whatever, right, last week.
Yep.
So that would have been terrible for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm blessed to keep my boost, but like I didn't get the trades I wanted. And then this week again, I was like, you know what? I'm sitting all right. I had Acosta, I had Bagnaia, I had Martin. So Martin and Bagnaia were my golds. They have been all year. Why am I not winning everything? I don't get it.
They've taken turns not
Suck.
hanging out the whole race.
I know. So, but
What did you think of that pass Bastianini put on
Oh
Martin?
boy. Which
man,
one? Who are you asking here?
The room.
Okay.
the room. I will tell you that it was late, and Benea, or what is it, Bastianini? He kind of, yeah, that guy. He kind of lost the front a little bit on entry there, and I think that made it worse than it was. But I love the aggression, and I'm a Martinator fan, so I mean, at first I was like, damn, really, dude? And then I watched it again. I'm like, yeah, really? But hey, like it's a huge win for Ducati, 100th win. Everybody's fighting for it. I think Bastianini had pace, but he just couldn't find a place to pull the trigger. So I ain't hating him for it, man. Honestly, like I like to see it. It was pretty rad.
Dude, I was flipping out when that first happened. I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" On the last lap, because obviously it pushed Martin out, right? Then
Right.
again, same as you, I went back and rewatched it, and I was like, "Okay." I think he went for the pass. I think he had it, and he lost it halfway through his pass. I don't think he had any intention of going in there, running wide, and pushing Martin out. I think he had full intention of making that pass, and it was gonna be clean, and then he couldn't hold it and went wide. And I noticed him check over his shoulder on the way out, which means he realized,
That he hit Martin.
yeah, that he messed
Well,
up
I think
a
that's
little
all what happened. Like I think if he would have tipped it in, he would have lost the front because he was bouncing off the bottom, right?
bit. Yeah.
So I think what he did with the whole thing was like he went for aggressive pass, minor. I mean, at those speeds and at that pace, we're talking like minor misjudge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of trying to tip it in, he kind of kept it just up enough so that he didn't lose the front and clean them both out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the end, if he was going to go for the pass, I think that was the safest way he could have done it. Unfortunately, it just looked like he punted him off the track.
Well, did you notice his leg was on the ground before the pass, through the pass, after the pass?
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think he had any attention. I think he was like, I got this. And then halfway through was just, oh, maybe not. Okay. And
he had a kickdown down throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, though, man, I can't freaking blame Jorge for his immediate, hands in the air, pissed off coming across the finish line. But it was interesting that, like, immediately after that, he caught up with him. And there had been an exchange of words there. There was something along the line. I don't know. I'm making this up. I didn't watch any of the interviews or anything, but I'm assuming there was an exchange of words like, yo, what are you doing? And Bastianini probably explained something very similar to what we said, like, hey, my bad. And then Jorge has to, you kind of have to give it to him and be like, well, it is racing, right? You go for a pass. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. But he made the right decision, kept them both up. So,
well, woulda, coulda, shoulda. If Bagnaia wouldn't already been in the dirt at that point, and like I said, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Jorge Martin slowed completely down after that. Took him a while to get back up to speed. Bagnaia might have took him too if he wouldn't already been in the dirt.
I think that Martin knew though. I think Martin knew that there was nobody behind them, and that's why he just kind of put it across the line. I mean, imagine a soccer player when they get touched and then they roll around on the ground crying. So I think that was kind of one of those maneuvers. He was just so pissed. So shit. You're so mad.
You fixed it with a backup cuss word. That's my favorite.
Freaking Lugnut, dude. All right. So, but I think he was just so mad that like he just kind of like didn't give up, obviously, but just brought it home at that point, and kind of tried to play it off like it was a big deal or whatever. I don't know. But I love the emotion. I love the emotion from him. I love the gestures and everything else. I was like, dude, we need more of that. We need more anger in this sport.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I did.
The commentators are cracking me up. Right after Bagnaia crashed, he's back in the pit box, right? And they show him, they're like, yeah, and there's an angry looking Bagnaia. And he's just sitting there like not angry at all. He's just
always looks exactly the same.
Yeah, I was like,
Mr.
what do you mean angry looking back? Now, I've seen where,
Yeah.
like, in that, if he's in his helmet, I feel like you can get a lot more from his eyes. But as soon as that helmet comes off, it's just,
He's just the same.
yep, just
You ever
chilling.
notice how much Anea looks like him? They look very similar.
Yeah, well,
I know.
they're both Italian. All Italians look the same.
Or like they all look the same.
Whatever
Wow.
Italian fans we had
I'm
just left.
sorry to your Italian listeners.
I'm just kidding. They don't all look the same.
And to think I held off on my Mario joke earlier.
I don't know.
Hey.
Bastianini was always the more jokester, funny one to me. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I don't have any like actual
Personality wise.
Yeah, I don't actually really have anything to back that up with. But you know, he's got he's the rider in pink out there, the
Here,
pink and purple or whatever.
Let me help you back that up.
Okay.
In the conference with Marc Marquez before the race, he was talking and he didn't know the English word for her.
Okay.
So he said he or him in reference to a woman, and Marc Marquez was leaning over trying to correct him, and he changed it to she because he knew the word she, but he didn't know the word her. And so they were having quite a good laugh about that in the conference, trying to learn English.
That's good.
I think that's cool, man. They're talented. That like they can all speak all these different languages and stuff. Like I think that's pretty neat too. Like these guys aren't just like so dumb they can ride fast on motorcycles. They're just smart enough to do it and other things in life too. I don't know. I thought that was pretty neat.
It's cool. I think we have questioned before when that's required. Like if it's Moto 3, Moto 2, MotoGP, is there a level that you get to where it's like, okay, hey bud, you gotta be able to do the English interviews now.
Well, I think the rider reps, like whoever their like riding gurus are, like, hey, we're gonna work on this because of marketability and things like that, right? Like there is a certain point.
That makes sense.
Like I think Taka Nakagami, I don't think he speaks a word of English.
All right, he's never anywhere.
TV time.
Yeah,
well,
he's not far enough up in the results to get any interviews, so I want to know.
Speaking of that, though, what about Fabio, man? P6 on the Yamaha.
Yeah, I mean Yamaha. Some big announcements. One, Jack Miller does officially have that spot at Pramac next year on a Yamaha, which you know,
with a V4.
That's what I was gonna say. So.
Well, I don't know. Is it announced that they're bringing that out for next year? I know they're working on it, but
I think you're going to see it in the next 6 races. Myself,
everything that I have seen and heard has said Yamaha will have a V4 for 2025. The big talk is whether or not that's a good move, because everyone's got to design a new engine. So people are asking, are they wasting their time and money designing a new engine for the next 2 years? Or are they actually getting a jump because they're going to design an engine based around the 2027 850 change and be able to take what they already have, get all this data on the V4 and probably just make a smaller V4? There's some guesses that people have.
It's not exactly like I can just like put an extra thicker cylinder wall and now it's
just sleeve it.
Yeah, it's not like you can do that. You can expect the engine characteristics to be the same, right? I'm not that smart, but I just assume that that's not how it works. But I think because they don't have a V4 platform at all, it's not a waste whatsoever because they're going to learn a lot about what does and doesn't work for them real quick by doing this. So that's exciting news.
Yeah.
But I was stoked to see Fabio. He practiced strong, he qualified strong, and then P6 in the race. So, it's pretty solid.
Fabio's did awesome. I enjoyed seeing that, but I want to, at the risk of peeling this onion back one more layer. One of the arguments is Yamaha actually has come out and keeps correcting people saying, no, a V4 is not going to make more power.
Mm-hmm.
It's how the power is delivered.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
My question is, I'm sure smarter people than me know, but when we go to the new displacement, the way the power hits, is it less important? More important? Is the inline now the way to go?
I think that's always important, that power delivery, right? So I don't know what would be a better option at that point in time, but I can tell you my very limited experience on the V4s, like the Aprilia felt a little sluggish, and that's not a knock at all. Like I felt so comfortable on that bike, and it was fast. Like I ripped, but it just didn't feel fast. Like my ZX10, it just hits a certain RPM, and it's just mean. But below that, it sucks, right? So and then I rode the Ducati when Stacy had her Ducati, and that thing was just so smooth. It poured the power on. It didn't try to break the wheel loose. Like, it was just so linear that you could really, like, on the edge of the tire, you could play with that a little bit because you knew exactly what to expect to the 100 RPM. It wasn't like on the inlines where they come to life like a freaking two-stroke at 10 grand, and all of a sudden you're spinning up and doing some crazy stuff. Now, I've gotten used to riding that way, but I think the V4 is probably still the move. I mean, just the way they make power is ridiculous.
I think so. To put in like layman's terms, for MotoGP, the inline four always had the better handling, right? The better mid corner speed. Like Yamaha on a technical track used to be killer, and Ducati always had the straight line power, right? So they couldn't turn for crap, and then they hit the line and they're good to go. So that was kind of like the trade off. And I think when you think about going down to an 850, and then the other changes they're making, they're not just making 850 changes, they're making other changes. I think that all the bikes are going to be much lighter, and all the bikes are going to naturally have that better handling. And so, in my humble opinion, also it's only 150cc change, which is not that much.
That's a whole Honda Civic.
I think you should look at your Honda Civic engines a little more. It's a lawnmower, at least a Honda lawnmower. I'll give you that. But I think that because the bikes are going to get smaller in general, I think that handling characteristic is going to kind of go up on its own. So my personal opinion is that, yeah, I think the V4 is probably the only answer. And also, it sucks to say it, but it's been a long time coming. I feel like they've been the only inline four for a few years now, and it's just been getting worse and worse. And they always get more power, but they can't figure out how to put it down, while Ducati and Aprilia and KTM just go fight the battles at the front, and no one
I think
can do
the
anything.
last ones that did a good job with that was Suzuki, and they seemed to be more competitive than the bunch outside of Marquez on the Honda at that time, right?
Yeah.
Had some great races.
Well, the Honda's a V4, so.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry, but yeah, so the Yamaha versus the Suzuki, I felt like the Suzuki was more consistently competitive in a variation of tracks. So a lot of that, we were talking about handling and stuff, that all comes like rotating mass. Like talk about like ZX10R versus RR. The internals are lighter, and actually it becomes easier to transition the bike around the racetrack, moving it side to side and stuff like that. I don't think it's any more powerful. I've ridden both bikes, both engines in the same bike. You know, the only thing I noticed was the bike just felt lighter underneath me with the RR motor.
Interesting.
So a lot of that, and I mean, obviously they're working with the best of the best of the best at MotoGP, but again, one engineer to the next. I mean, maybe that's the advantages that they're getting out of them or whatever. So
yeah, the biggest thing for me is that, I mean, Yamaha coming out and saying, "Hey, we're doing a V4. Also, we're getting a satellite team back." To me, it means they're in it for the long run. They are actually sticking around, because I had some worries here with how bad they were doing, both Honda and Yamaha, to be honest. And Honda's still kind of worrying me a little bit. But for Yamaha, we don't want to see it just be a Ducati versus Ducati showdown out there. So to see them put in that effort, make some big changes, and keep moving forward. And also, I think the 2025 Yamaha R1 is actually, in fact,
official. It is
coming out. They threw some wings on it. I'm looking at a picture right now of Jake Gagne walking up to it. So
if you want to look into the future, though,
but it's not road legal. Anyway, yep.
Yeah, if you want to look into the future, in Europe, they're already selling the R1 as a race only.
Yeah.
So you probably got the last hurrah for the Yamaha R1, in my opinion, for 2025, and then you'll be able to buy them for the next 5 years as race only.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is just homologation for World Superbike.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right in that game. But yeah, I mean, MotoGP oriented. I think Honda's going to wait it out. They're going to wait for the new bike, the new regulations. I don't think they're going to. I think Yamaha realized that like they really want to win, and they spent a lot of money on Fabio, and they better get him on a competitive bike if they want to make it worth their while. So they're doing what they can now, and I think the addition of the satellite team. I think everybody's giddy at Yamaha right now. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, they're definitely in it. But you mentioned the Aprilias, and I think I was talking to somebody. I was talking to Nick. You guys know Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to him today, and we were talking about the race, and it wasn't boring. You know, it was exciting, but it is kind of getting to be like the same shit every week, right? And with the Aprilias, you know, they're kind of hit and kind of miss. It's like those guys that they go to a track that means something to them or something. They're riding that extra a little bit, but both those guys are on their way out.
Yeah.
Maverick, and he's already got his ride secured, so who gives a shit what he does the rest of the year. And then Alej, she's done, right? So I think that there's some of that going on with those Aprilias, at least the factory team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited to see uh, the new rider lineup for next year. Like Martin on the Aprilia and Enea going to the KTM, and like there's some cool stuff happening, and it's gonna shake things up quite a bit. I don't think it's gonna be the Ducati show next year like everybody has seen for the last year or two.
Definitely. Yeah, it'll. I don't know. It'll be nuts. I mean, you're getting, DG still with VR46. You're getting a new rider on a Ducati coming up to Grassini. You mentioned, Martin heading over to an Aprilia, which he's on the track to win the. I think he might actually take it this year. Just throwing that prediction out there. I think he might finally grab his championship title.
Started, and I will make sure that you guys all hear it here again.
Yeah. But, we'll see. I did think he has matured a lot this year and has shown that he can hold it when he needs to. But he's heading over there, and then Bezzecchi's joining him over there, and Bezzecchi's not like this year's been kind of weird for him.
So that's it. I lost that Bezzecchi or whatever his name is, Marco.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the other factory Aprilia.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Sick. I'm so excited. I'm ready I'm ready for Martin to win the championship and be over with MotoGP. Let's move on to next year.
Yeah, it'll be nuts.
Their careers are over.
Well, you don't think Aprilia can hold it, huh?
You're just saying that because of what people were saying about Joe.
No, I think every time I see, I've made no secrets. I'm not a Martin fan, but I see him out there. He's the fastest guy out there. He's the best rider out there. My opinion is I'm watching the show today. I'm watching him in the winner's circle or whatever, and I'm thinking, I'm seeing the sad face of Bagnaia, and I'm still thinking, Ducati, what the hell? You just keep the beast, and you keep Bagnaia on those bikes. That's your best chance going forward, and let everybody else fight it out. If they decide that they're fed up, Martin, I'm going to go to Aprilia because you won't give me a factory seat. Fine, that happened anyway. Marc Marquez, you don't want to ride on a satellite Ducati? Go somewhere else. Fine. Those are your two best chances for continued success going forward. They're great riders. They get along. I don't know what's going to happen next year when they blow this up, when Mark wants the championship. Bagnaia doesn't like him. They start kicking sand in his face.
I'm going to go on record right now and say that those guys take each other out 5 times next year.
Is that 5 exact or 5 at least?
We'll go Price is Right rules.
Listen, if Bagnaia only DNFs 5 times next year, he'll be doing excellent.
No. He's going to crash out on his own too. But I'm saying Marquez and are going to take each other out 5 times next year.
That's a good prediction. I like that. My prediction is not that, but.
Is that because you're a fan?
Yeah, it's definitely because I'm a Marc Marquez fan and I want to believe
I'm leaving the fandom out of this thing. Just like I said earlier about Enea making a good pass on Martin. Like I wanted Martin to win that race because he'd be a whole race ahead in points over Bagnaia after Bagnaia did what he does a lot this year, you know? Yeah. But yeah.
I think golden underwear, he threw a bunch of magic in his underwear. He's got a hole in his underwear, obviously, because it's just kind of sputtering.
His fairy dust is puttered out.
His fairy dust. I mean, he got a little bit. I mean, he got third place. And that was a gift. So there's still a little fairy dust hanging around in his trousers, but
the only issue I have with that comment is, and it's not actually directed towards you, but it's directed towards everyone else in the world that's been complaining about Marc Marquez and his riding and this guy, he needs to just quit. We can't have him anymore. So he calms down, gets decent, starts taking 4ths and 3rds and 5ths and living with it more often. He still goes crazy from time to time, but more often he's just being the mature guy in the back, riding how he's supposed to. And now he gets talked bad on for doing that because where's the magic? Where's the Mark Marquez? Where'd he go?
You just can't make everybody happy, man. I think he's done a hell of a job this year for jumping on a new bike, and he's always been, maybe not always, but he's regularly inside the top 5. And, I think, does he deserve a factory bike? Yeah. Do we get rid of like a good tandem duo, like you were saying, Cole, with the 2 Italians on the factory Ducatis? I don't know, man. I kind of like, there's a lot to be said for the vibe in the garage and in the paddock and in the practices and everything else. So, you might be screwing everything up by putting those 2 together.
What?
I mean,
What if Ducati hates Valentino Rossi and wants Mark to be able to do what he could never do, just to rub it in his face?
I don't think that's the case.
I don't either, but just food for thought.
So, do we beat that horse to death or what?
We beat that horse to death.
Yeah, I
But
think.
real quick. I don't care about Moto 3. Sorry, fans out there. Moto 2,
Moto2.
interesting. It was an interesting race for the top 3. Everything else was kind of just single file. From what I could see, our boy Joe finished 6th. Not bad. Gained some points on 2nd, but not on 1st. Iagura is leading the points, took 4th. But those 3 up front were freaking flying, man. And then in the end of the race, like they started, trying to push each other a little bit. And it seemed like on the same lap, everybody made mistakes. And it really added an extra element of fun to the race. What a finish. It's pretty wild. You guys watch Moto 2?
I did not this week.
That's why you're just like, Go watch it, dude. It was fun. Yeah. Maybe just skip to the last 5 laps. You're fine.
So, okay, we're moving on from MotoGP.
We're moving on.
SuperCross.
We have to talk, before we get to dirt bikes, we have to talk about World Superbike.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, you guys at home can judge me for this or whatever. I tried figuring out how to send it to Anthony earlier. But when you was a kid and you'd watch the TV shows and, maybe you watched the original Top Gun and you put yourself in there. You were Tom Cruise, right? You were flying the jet. And you watch motorcycle racing and, sometimes that kid mentality comes out and you put yourself on the bike, on the track. You're rooting for your heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Race 2, World Superbike. There was a hell of a battle between Gerloff and Alex Lowe's. A hell of a battle.
Yeah, I like both those guys too, so that's good to hear.
It was a hell of a battle for 4th and 5th, and I was watching with my 12-year-old self going, that's me, and that's Anthony. I'm getting him. I'm going to get him. And lap after lap after lap, and I had you. And then I didn't have you, but I crawled back in there, and by the time it was all over, man, I had you.
Nice. So Garrett beat Alex for 4th. Garrett took 4th.
Yep. And
nice.
it was awesome. We had I've made it no secret on here. I am falling in love with World Superbike over the last, year and a half. I actually enjoy watching World Superbike more than I enjoy watching MotoGP.
I think it's a more fun format, right? With the Super Pole and everything else too.
It's more relatable.
It's more relatable. I like listening to the bikes. They sound like my bike. They, it feels like my bike. Watching them go around the track, it's like I could go to the store and buy one of those, even though we all know I couldn't. But, it at least has the illusion of a stock bike out there or a stockish bike. Mm-hmm. But Toprak got injured, a couple races ago. He chose to sit this race out again. And so my allegiance immediately switched to Alex Lowe's. I told you I'd be becoming quite the fan of that guy. That guy's a killer, man. He gets out there and he doesn't have to have the best bike under him. He doesn't have nothing. He goes for it. And it was a great race, but it was interesting. And I don't know if you've seen this, Anthony, but interesting thing that they did this weekend. So they brought a guy to sit on Toprak's bike, to run Toprak's bike. It's the second week, so I think they have a similar rule to MotoGP. You can sit out one with an injured rider, but you have to fill the bike if they're going to be out multiple weeks.
Mm.
So they brought a guy in, the guy that came in, they changed motors on him and after qualifying and made him start from the back. And it came out in the media that was the agreement all along. They told him, you can come ride the bike, but know that we're going to switch motors. So they put their 7th motor in because when Top Rat comes back, they can't have any problems. They wanted a fresh motor because he's got to make a run for the championship. So they sacrificed that guy and his chances, and they were up front with him before the weekend started that that's what they were going to do. So a lot of gamesmanship going on over there, which is quite interesting to me.
You know, I don't think I have a problem with that at all. I don't think I would even have a problem with that if I was that guy and I came in and I was just taking a ride for the weekend. They're like, hey, by the way, this motor might blow up on you, but can't afford to give you a new one because, this guy kind of needs it. I'd be like, yeah, no, that's fair. I'm probably wouldn't do any good with it anyway. So
I was just gonna ask, like, would you even be upset? Like, hey, come ride this World Superbike at this badass track on this super rad bike, but we're gonna like not give you the best opportunity, but you can do it.
No.
Oh yeah, I'm in.
yeah.
No. Oh.
Hell, I'm in if they said, hey, we're not going to let you ride the bike, but we're going to send you the wounded motor. I'm okay with that.
There you go. BMW.
I was gonna say, back to the rider's tip. Is it the rider or is it the bike? Come on.
So World Superbike, Top Rack was so far ahead that he missed the last 2 rounds now entirely.
Which is 4 races and 2 Super Poles.
Yes.
It's not just like 2 races. It's 2 rounds, which is 6 events.
Yeah, they have a 62 point potential on a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So he missed those 2 rounds.
He missed like 1,000, right?
Yes. Well, the Beluga Well ended up winning the second race.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, the first race. No, he didn't win any of the races. Petrucci won all the races.
All right.
Yeah. Who won today?
We got to talk about.
Races.
I know you love World Superbike, but if you're going to come out here and say things, they need to at least be true.
I know. Well, I forgot because Petrucci didn't matter to me. I was watching those two factory Ducatis because they're catching up to him, right?
Yep.
And I don't know if you have the points pulled up by chance, but
I do.
There's a 9-point spread now, I think.
7. No, sorry. 13. 65 and 52. 13 points.
So missed 2 on the weekend or
no
season?
Championship standings for World Superbike. Top Rack's at 365. The Beluga Whale sits at 352. So 13 points behind.
He was so far ahead, man. He had 13 in a row he hit.
Yeah.
13
That's
wins
wild.
in a row.
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm looking at their screen right here. I've got the last 2 rounds. He's nowhere. And then it's just top. Like, that's
So
T,
it's going to be exciting, but MotoGP has a race next weekend, as does World Superbike again. So both of them are doing back-to-back weekends.
Yep.
Hopefully Top Rack can make it back because it would be a shame for that guy to not win after doing what he's done this year.
Pure domination.
Okay, let's see. So World Superbike's only got 3 left, actually.
Yep.
There'll be in Aragon next weekend, and then they'll head to Estoril, wherever that is.
Estoril.
Back to Spain after
Spain
that.
or something.
Yeah, Portuguese.
Or Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal. I had to find another one with the same flag. I hate that they're like, one is the Portuguese Grand Prix because it's in Portugal. Another one is in Portugal, but it can't be the Portuguese Grand Prix because we already had anyway.
We already had one.
Yeah.
So, any other racing stuff to cover? That was road. Oh, you know what? You got to shout out Mal Dobbs, top 10 in the WCR for a World Superbike.
Yeah.
This weekend. So she had a good start to the weekend, and I'm almost positive our friends Ty and Rainey, they're out there honeymooning, and they were just so happened to be in Italy and went to that race.
Really?
So, yeah.
Lucky dogs.
They posted something about being there. I don't know. But, yeah, pretty cool. So, Mal Dobbs, great job. Congrats on your top 10. I know it's been a tough season, but way to go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I did watch these races for the record.
I don't have any info, which can work into, but I'm assuming the women's thing is not like quitting. It wasn't a 1-year deal. In general, what is it? WCR,
Yeah.
right? Is she continuing next year?
I don't think they've done contracts and stuff like that for that yet.
All right,
So none of that info's out there. But
cool. All right, leave it at that. But no, it is super cool that we're, we do have Joe Roberts over in Moto 2. We got Mal Dobbs out in the women's World Superbike. We got Garrett Gerloff in World Superbike. We have so many Americans in Moto America. That one's kind of, whatever.
Weird.
Yeah. No one would expect that.
And then you got Lugnut and Cole in USBA.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get there, can we get it out of the way? Motocross.
Yes.
All right. So did you watch?
Yes.
Dude, it's great. I'm here in Vegas, in case you Germans don't know where Vegas is. Here in Vegas.
If there was one town in the United States that someone would know where it was,
Vegas,
it's probably that one.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know enough Germans to know they know exactly where Vegas is. I think there's a direct flight.
It's funny. Everybody's like, "Yeah, go Vegas," and I'm like, "Can I go? Can I get out of here?" Anyways, so the World Championship, the finale, the triple points for motocross for the SMX World Championship was here in Vegas this weekend. Ton of friends and other Moto America racers and stuff like that. Since we had the weekend off, we're here. I didn't get a chance to go because I'm getting ready for us to go to New Jersey this next weekend. So I had my work cut out for me. So I went and rode my own motocross on Friday, which I hinted to earlier. At night, it was a night show for me. It's pretty rad. Had fun. And then yesterday I worked around the house, worked on bikes, and watched this SMX. So if you haven't been following along, the name Hayden Deegan, you probably know it anyways. He crushed it in the 250s this year. Well, he took the cheese. He took home all the money. And they had a hell of a party. It was some pretty decent racing. He kind of walked away both races, but
hey,
you're 250 class.
How about that freaking jump? I come off the couch.
Dude.
He landed. He hit that jump, and you come off that jump, and the track splits. You have a choice. You can go outside or inside. And I seen him. You can go outside or inside, right? The camera just kind of picks him up in the background, just sailing through the air where nobody has ever flown before. And he lands on the outside in the lane of the outside. What in the hell was that?
Dude, I don't know, but that kid keeps
moto when he didn't need to. He only needed to finish like 6th or better.
But I love that about him. Like, he's just a sender, man. It's fun to watch him. Like, he's doing stuff that the 450 bikes are getting away with. And then when I was watching practice before racing started, I mean, he went straight away and he was doing a quad in a rhythm section, and not a single other 250 was doing it in practice. And I think as the track deteriorated, he couldn't get away with it anymore. But dude, the guy is just special, man.
Quad in the rhythm section. Sounds like you're hitting 4 drums over in the rhythm section. Are we talking about music or motorcycles?
Yeah.
So he's a rider. He's one of those guys that every sport needs. He's the guy that creates a lot of
personality.
Haters. Yeah. Yep. Creates a lot of haters, but also creates a lot of ride or die type fans.
So I don't follow, as we know, but Deegan, that name specifically, has some history with it, and one would argue that I assume some people at the beginning of the season, or maybe when he first started, whatever, were probably trying to argue that he's just got the ride because of his dad.
I'm sure that there were some haters that were saying stuff like that.
Is it safe to say that that's not true?
Yes,
for sure.
I just want to give him that props, right? It's one thing to have a dad that has a history and whatever, and then get told your entire time in that, like, oh, you just have to ride because your dad, to show up every week, kill it, come out with a championship. Yeah.
So I would say,
puts in the work.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic you're getting on there. But I would say, I mean, I don't know, I'm just pulling this number out of my but 80% of all them riders have some type of financial means, whether that's a dad that owns a business that can take them every weekend so that they can go ride. A large percentage of that. Did Deegan have that? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. His dad was not a great motocross racer. His dad Brian Deegan will be the first to tell you that he failed as a Supercross rider. He had one win, I believe, and didn't pick up the sponsorship, didn't get the rides, was famous for a ghost ride off a jump. And then he created
He was more of a freestyle guy, though, right?
Well, after that, at first, him and what's the other guy?
Kit?
No, well, yes, but oh my gosh, who's the big drifter guy? Help me out here.
Ken Block.
No, but yes, also him. No, the motocross guy.
Oh, I
That
don't
does
know.
all the tricks. The Nitro Circus guy.
You're the old
Oh
one
yeah,
here.
Pastrana.
So
Yeah.
they're the same generation. So those two both came up,
Right.
and Deegan was from a middle class at best family, and the other guy was from Means. He was the golden boy in Supercross, and Deegan didn't make it. But he went on to create the Metal Militia. He did all these other things. So there's money backing him, of course. But everybody banged on that kid. But I've been a Brian Deegan fan as long as I can remember because I'm a sand duner, right? The Metal Militia, yeah, whatever. But to watch his kids grow up, I've watched them on social media. I've watched them the whole time. And that kid has put in the work. I mean, his dad obviously was there to take him to the track, to get him to Loretta's, to run him through all the amateur circuits, to do all that stuff. But that kid, he's not a spoiled little rich kid. You can't do that. What he's doing, you can't do that as a spoiled little rich kid.
Yeah.
You got to go in, get in the dirt, and put in the hours and hours it takes. And sure, I'm sure he has special coaching and all those kind of things as he was growing up. But so do most of those guys, in my opinion.
So did you? And I'll keep this short because I know we're not a Supercross podcast here, but all relevant to motorsports and motorcycles. Did you listen to the Gypsy Tales podcast with Brian Deegan by chance? You probably wouldn't, Easton. Okay, but he kind of goes into the background story and stuff like that, and he talks about how like he didn't just give it to Hayden either. Like they've done well for themselves, their family or whatever, but they've made the push with social media and sponsorships, and he made Hayden like do all that so that they could afford to step it up and go to the big show because Brian Deegan, I think, has 3 kids.
Yep.
They got Haley Deegan and Hayden Deegan, and I can't remember the youngest. Haley is a stock car racer and a short course off-road car racer, and she's good. She puts in the work too. Hayden obviously didn't come out of the gate swinging. He had to work into it, but you could tell he's been putting in the work, and now he's SMX 250 world champion. So obviously
two-time.
And then special note, the youngest is pursuing a career in professional bass fishing.
Hey,
Love it.
there you go.
Yes. So anyways,
Motorsport related, huh? Yeah.
You got to have something else besides going fast. You got to slow down sometimes.
That's why you put a big motor on the bass boat.
I was going to say it. I hear people all the time talking about their bass boats, and generally
they're not slow.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong here. I know it's more about like the I don't know anything about boats, but you want something that can go, in the shallows and the deep and all that. But we're always talking about getting bigger motors. We're dudes.
Dude, they got 400 horsepower V8s on the back of these bass boats doing 100 miles an hour. Talk about terrifying.
Also, you can catch a bass.
Scary.
Yeah, that really helps bring the fish into the boat.
For tournament fishing though, like if that's your profession, like just like anything else, we put suspension on our bikes, we put good tires on our bikes, we do our motor stuff, our exhaust, we have good gear, right? Like that's part of their program. They need to be the first one to the fish, and that gives them more fishing time in a day because they can haul ass back to the dock and at the last minute and do their weigh-ins or whatever. Now JKMoto is a bass fishing podcast too. Sorry, but
perfect. So the guy, little shout out. Who's the guy that won that Moto 2? I forgot his name too.
Yeti.
No.
What, Moto 2 you said?
The PW guy, the Powers guy, or on the gas. The one, the Moto 2 race that Deegan was in.
Oh, that. I don't know.
Gas guy? Is it VL?
No. He's on a KTM.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
That guy's out of Sandy, Utah, FYI.
Nice. I can't remember. I don't even know his name. Sorry.
I keep trying to say Powers, but that's another guy we know.
Yeah,
All right.
he's definitely did not win that.
We
But
got
real quick to sum up
Oh,
Supercross, I'm sorry. Jet took home the bacon. He won the money, $1 million richer. Won SMX world champion. So, but
yeah.
great race. Eli Tomac, Jet, and Hunter Lawrence, the brothers. I mean, they were banging bars in the first moto. Kind of a runaway for Jet in the second one. But
Yeah. And we're not done talking about this yet, Easton, because there's a couple points I want to bring up. One, I want to ask Anthony, have you heard, I don't know this, is Deegan moving to 450 for Supercross?
no word. He's getting a surgery done, so he skipped on the world, whatever, like the race of the moto of the world or whatever is going
Right.
on right now. He skipped on that because he's getting a surgery done. So I don't know if he's going to jump straight to 450s. Honestly, I doubt it. I think he'll run another season of 250s and then go from there. Personally,
He's got to go win it.
mm.
And Easton, for you,
Mm-hmm.
I know you want to talk about the dirt bikes, but we're staying on dirt bikes for a minute because one, what was the purse? Do you remember? The purse, the overall purse for this race this weekend, $5.5 million.
That's a lot.
Huge money.
$5.5 million. During that race, they're talking about if this guy gets one more spot, it's $50K. If this guy finishes here, he's going to make $150,000. If these are lesser classes, this is not even the main classes. These are the 250s.
Mm-hmm.
And the announcers the whole time are talking about that's another $50K. Not to mention Yamaha is going to give him $50K for a race win. And I don't know if that was all included. Those purses were included in that 5.5 million. No.
It was literally just purse money. So that Yamaha money would be like a contingency money or a bonus program. That has nothing to do with the actual purse. The $5 million was purse money.
So it relates, Easton, because if they were offering $5.5 million at a Moto America race, I guarantee there'd be a lot more kids coming through the rankings.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, remember earlier I was saying I like the attitude and the passion and the emotion when we're talking about Martine and Aya, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
I've always said that that's what's missing from road racing. Like, everybody is expected to be the clean-cut guy, whatever, you know, I mean, nothing against him, the Cam Bobier, like the guy is so proper and well-spoken on camera and all this stuff. But the only one, as of recent years that I've seen with that type of emotion, gets in trouble for it every time is Josh Herron, you know? But if we had more personality like that, like Jet Lawrence and El Hombre, they were like locking horns, and actually the Lawrence brothers, right? Like they were
Right.
every chance they got it, every time they had an opportunity to roost that guy or to bang him off the track this year, they did it. And that drama created interest, and that interest created fans, and those fans bring more sponsor money and bring more money, and that's how that happens, right? So like, you know, I may drop an F bomb when I get an opportunity to be on a podium or something like that, and I may not be a clean cut guy, and I might be the first person to tell you off. Not usually, like, I'm a pretty nice dude, but yeah, I just feel like there needs to be more of that in our sport, in MotoGP, and World Superbike, and Moto America. Like, let the colors show, man. Like,
I would say at least in Moto America.
for
And
sure.
and here's why. And to the listeners, when it comes down to it, I like going to demolition derbies and rodeos and all that great stuff. But you're more likely to get someone to go out to a motocross event than a Moto America event, and it could very well be because of that. We don't want to go out and watch motorsport in a suit and tie and drink wine. We want to go out in a shirt, t-shirt, whatever, you know, or shit kickers, cold
Yep.
beer, and
Yep.
freaking watch motocross, MotoGP, Moto whatever. So at least for Moto America, if you want to get more fans here in America, those are the dudes you're missing are the ones that don't care about all the professionalism. So yeah, I don't say, you know, don't bring it down a notch, but you're absolutely right.
Don't be not classy, you
Yeah.
know, like still keep the class and the professionalism, but let us be human. And I think that Moto America themselves does a terrible job of showing the humanity in it, right? Like the relatability.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very easy for people to relate to motocross. Also, another reason why there's a lot more money there and a lot more fans there consistently is because most kids have tried to ride a dirt bike or they've been on a mountain bike or, you know, something. They've been around it.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
feels closer. That's something I could
correct.
do. I could do that this weekend.
Right. But to do what we do at the track in racing and Moto America or club racing or whatever, most people, their immediate response is, wow, that's crazy. Look, your knees on the ground. I'm like, yeah, it's whatever. Like it's not that crazy. But they see a bike flying through the air and they're like, wow, that's crazy. But you talk to the motocross guys and they'll say we're crazy and we, say that they're crazy. And so I guess the point is it's just hard to relate already. And so if you keep us away from our personalities in road racing, then people will never gain interest, like you either have to be involved or you're not. And it's like the drive to survive thing, like they did a good job of showing personality and relatability. And Moto America has tried a couple different ways to do that, but it's always, again, so clean cut. It's like, nah, like, let's let tempers flare and let's be people and passionate and humans, and all of a sudden like somebody will relate to it. Anyway, that's what I liked about that one fast move, even though I think it was from the inside looking out at the movie, it was terrible, but at the same time, like, there was some passion and there was some emotion there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a fan. I wouldn't say I'd watch it again, but I'm a fan of what they did there. Like let's try to bring the general public and help them understand what road racing is about and get them involved to some degree.
Yeah.
That was the help. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about getting them involved, so I watched Moto America. We haven't talked about that on here. They were at Coda. Some of the best racing I have seen. Some of the best racing I have seen. I don't say that lightly. I've trained myself to quit saying that quite so lightly because I like all racing. But
The super sport race.
the Super Sport race was nuts.
Oh my god.
But even the Superbike race,
It was fantastic.
the race between Heron and Bobier
And SDK.
and SDK.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, it was kind of held between those three with Loris Baz bringing up the fourth spot, but the lead changes, the bumping bars, there was drama. It was good stuff. And those stands, not to kick on Moto America, but those stands were empty. Did they not sell seats? Because I could see my seat from my MotoGP. I could see my seats, and there was not one person in those stands. So I'm thinking they only sold seats on the front stretch.
That's possible.
I
mean, I don't know. But my immediate thought was like, well, yeah, maybe Coda didn't even bother selling the tickets to the other ones. But then I'm like, I don't know. Pretty sure Moto America sells the tickets. So
most Moto America is GA, right? Like it's general admission because you get access to paddock and stuff like that. And so I think there was more people there than it appeared to be, but it definitely was not packed. I think last year I was there for Moto America, and it was brutally hot, even more humid, and so they can't use weather this year as an excuse because I think it was more packed there last year than it was this year, which is just kind of a bummer. But they did some work on the track, and the track looked to be in better shape. They did a lot of repaving, and it wasn't nearly as bumpy for the guys and stuff. So, kind of a bummer. Great racing, man. I don't know why. Like there should have been 30, 40, 50,000 people there for sure, but there wasn't. So,
yeah,
go buy your damn ticket.
Those races were absolutely awesome. And while we're on that, before we get off the Moto America, Anthony, I'm looking at my watch that doesn't exist over here, but you're a week out?
4 days.
And where are you going? Let's talk about that a little bit.
New Jersey. Are we boring you, bud?
No, sorry. I just had a really bad something going on with my eye. No, you're good.
Anthony's on his way to New Jersey for the last round of the Stock 1000 championship. And it's also the last round for Moto America of the year, correct?
Yep.
It is.
Grand finale. So notoriously, Jersey is a wet race weekend. And so we've been kind of keeping an eye on the weather podcast.
How's she looking? How's she looking? I haven't looked yet.
mixed reviews. Like every day it's kind of different, but
This-
Stacy is a
This
wizard with her
guy.
weather.
I try to give him one weather update once in my life, and he yells at me about how he never looks at the weather. Who cares? We just ride.
I know.
And now
I
he's
know.
like, I'm over here, been looking at the weather every day. I
You
keep
know
getting
why
different
I'm looking
news.
at the weather? You know why?
Because we mentioned weather too much on the podcast.
Because you can't
Not at
change it.
Negative. That's why I don't look at the weather, because you can't change it. So the reality is I got my brother who lives in Rhode Island. My niece just started grad school in New Jersey. So I got some family I don't get to see very often. They're all close. And they're all coming. And so I'm like, man, I hope it's like nice and not just like totally crap weather. Because being at the track all day, it's a long day sometimes, and when you got to deal with rain the whole time, that sucks. So that's why I've been looking.
That's fair.
But what I'm getting at is it actually doesn't. It looks like there's a pretty good chance that we're going to have some dry tracks.
He said it.
Maybe not the whole weekend, but
You won't now because you said it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's all right. I don't give it. I'm going, and we're going to go do this. And it's the last round of the year. And the only thing that's left the rest of the year is dirt bike, motocross stuff for me, and then CVMA, which I am not committed to doing a full season of CVMA this year because we're really going to focus on doing this whole Moto America thing again for next year. Bigger, better, faster. But I'll be there. CVMA, we'll be doing some rounds and stuff. So point being, let it rain. If I kick flip the bike to the moon, oh well, I got time. So looking forward to it.
Hey, let's not do that. Anthony, you looking at me?
You
looking at me? I'm looking at you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Kick their ass.
Thank you.
Have fun and be safe.
Minus the safe part. We'll have fun. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, the track looks fun. It reminds me. I like Brainerd. The facilities were terrible. So if you guys didn't see, they released the Moto America schedule for next year, and Brainerd is no longer on that schedule because it was kind of a shit show this year, facilities wise, and I think Moto America was pissed about it. So, but they reintroduced VIR, which is a fan favorite and a rider favorite, so that's pretty awesome. So now you got Mid Ohio still on the schedule, VIR. For us, for Stock 1000, 5 rounds again.
Stock 1000 got kind of mixed up though.
Big time, no repeats.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a single track that we were at this year that we're going to be at next year. And this year, like I knew half the tracks, but not the other ones. New Jersey's one I've never been to again. But next year, Road Atlanta is where we start, and then we go to Road America, which is arguably, for most racers, their favorite track in the entire country. I haven't ridden it, so I'm looking forward to putting that up against my favorites. And then we go from there to, I think it's Mid-Ohio, then VIR, and then back Dakota. So that's the Stock 1000 next year.
It sounds, yeah.
But, exciting, right? So I've at least ridden Road Atlanta. That's where I met you, Easton, for the first time, which is pretty rad. That you've ridden that track, so very, very relatable for you now.
Yeah.
It's a handful.
It is.
It's something special.
Mm-hmm.
So, but honestly, after riding it the first time, I was like, I don't care if I ever race here again, honestly. But then I let it sink in a little bit, and I was like, man, I want to go back there and ride there again. Like the track is actually pretty rad. It's a grizzly bear. It's definitely one to tame, and a lot of laps there help because you need some good references and stuff like that. So next year's going to be a challenge, but we got a game plan for this winter. But before all that starts, we got to go kick ass in Jersey. So let's get on with it.
There you go.
Yeah. So
looking forward to it. Well, let's get all caught up on what you've all been waiting for. Hearing more about Utah. You think the listeners get to Utah?
Yeah. I was going to mention at the beginning, I was actually literally going to say, hey, buckle your seatbelts and strap in. This is going to be a long one because I knew I wanted to talk about at least MotoGP and USBA, and that would take some time. Then we added it in.
I think every time you have me on the show, we take forever, though, because I talk a lot.
Well, that's fine. That's why we do it.
If you don't like it,
go somewhere else. But
don't do that.
Subscribe before you go somewhere else.
Yes. And then do like I do, because I listen to you guys every week on Wednesday. Usually I plan my work schedule so that I'm driving on Wednesday or Thursday so that I can listen to the podcast. So
that's a fan right there. That's what I like to hear.
I might be a guest host, but I'm also the biggest fan. So
there you go.
Hey,
there you go. Well,
you listened to Easton's. Hold on. You listened to Easton's last week, right?
Yeah.
So Are we gonna
On
keep?
the oil?
Yeah, are we gonna keep changing oil every 15 minutes in your bike, or are we gonna send you
Yes.
a test?
No.
I knew that was your answer.
It works for me. I change my oil and I change my clutch and I change my brake pads every time I start my bike.
Do you start the
Not that
bike and
much,
then
guys.
drain all the oil and then put the new oil in? Because that
Pretty
could
much.
be maybe why you're blowing up engines.
Who says blowing up engine?
Who said he was blowing up engines?
No one?
I'll let you know that I raced the last round of the Moto America.
Without oil.
Laguna. Oh, and I raced Laguna. I raced round 4 of USBA.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Colorado, which neither Cole or I have been. Well, Cole got a chance to talk about it. I ain't get a chance to talk about it with you guys. But, we raced Colorado, and then we raced round 5 of Utah. And guess who didn't change the clutch?
I noticed.
5 rounds, dude. Well, I changed one. We got one new going to Jersey. But
Or tires,
We'll get to that, though. That's pretty special, actually. There's a lot to unpack with that tire, and we'll keep it short, but I think the listeners who are into track riding are going to be very excited about that. So,
all right, well, let's unpack it. We got round 5, the final round, USBA.
Unpack it, not undress it. Sorry.
Put it away.
Yeah. Family
Nobody
show.
wants to see that.
Family show.
So, yes.
There's an article out there. It's my favorite. I am forgetting the name of the
Cycle News.
Yeah.
Road Racing World, I mean.
RoadRacingWorld.com. I love that website because it brings in stories of what I would call the locals. The local tonight being Lugnut. And Cole, your name's not left out of that article either.
Not at all.
So, but it's awesome to see those sweet articles, and then it's cool for me scrolling through Facebook. And I'm like, yo, undefeated. Who are they talking about? Yeah, I know that guy. I've hung out with that guy. I've been at races with that guy. Like, I know that guy. That's cool. But an undefeated season out at USBA, 5 rounds, 5 wins, and a championship title. Yeah, we gotta give it to him.
Thank you. Yeah, man, hell of a year. It was weird. Round 1 was snow. Round 2 was all right. I think some rain, right? Round 2, 3 and 4 were crystal clear, maybe a little hot, and then round 5 was actually really tricky with wind on Sunday. But round 1 we didn't get a chance to do KOM because the track was a skating rink, apparently frozen over.
But
so that doesn't.
Right. I mean, we've talked about it, but I just want
we did talk about it.
You did go out.
With
they didn't let him race in the snow.
Leathers and a hoodie over top. That's one of my favorite videos of you ever is you riding out with the freaking hoodie because I can just imagine how cold it was, but dude, like how you still got
for
the
a Southern California boy, dude. I was miserable, but I was like, bro, let's fucking race, man. I was ready to go. Yeah, but I won every race in round 1 that they let me race, right? And round 1 was a challenge because you got Bradshaw and Childry there, and they go really fast on East, and so that was that. And that was round 1. In round 2, back on the West, I think it's safe to say I kind of dominated that half of the track. So I actually started bringing my own competition and brought Wyatt up, which I got something to say about that in a little bit. But brought Wyatt up, and he started going quick, pushed Childry to go faster, and I think through me just egging the guys on and sharing my knowledge and what's working for me and getting them all on Dunlops. We all went pretty fast this year. Brian found a 29. I'm basically in the 29s at will on West, and I was really hoping this round to go for a 28 or get closer to what is the official lap record on West, but this round didn't have that in the cards with some weather and some other things going on, bike problems, stuff.
It was that clutch.
No,
not the clutch. Okay.
That's funny.
It wasn't the bike. It was you.
No, it was the bike. Actually, it was me on Saturday morning, but we're not going to. Well, I'll talk about that.
All right. Let me jump in first before you leave that subject. I just want to point out for anybody listening out there, we make it sound easy, but I want to give Anthony the proper props, if you will. That's a 8-hour drive because he drives slow sometimes. It's faster for other people, but
hey,
knock it off. You've been driving really fast lately, but.
And straight.
Hey, man, when you ride fast, you got to drive slow.
That's what I always say, but then I get people giving me shit.
That's because
about
this guy drives
driving.
for a freaking living and he's busy.
So I just want to point out that you can read, the road racing articles, and somebody can kind of read between the lines and see that there's some pretty big margins in there. But I can speak from my own experience on a much lesser level, right? But when you put together 5 rounds, you need to show up for 5 rounds. You need to do pretty good, whether you feel bad in round 2, your bike doesn't work right in round 4, all the different things that can happen. To put together an undefeated season like you did is not an accident. And the competition is there. I mean, when you look, there's some really fast people out there. And we want more. Anthony wants more. Come on.
I'm actually being. I've gotten more involved behind the scenes with the USBA, and I really can't go into a whole lot of details about that right just yet. But we will talk about that later this year on your podcast. I'd hope you'd have me back to do that. So there's some big moves happening for USBA for next year, and a huge shout out to them this year because they went out there. They linked up with Burt Brothers, who provided a sponsorship for the club and for a class, and that provided a payout. The Outlaw Garage, they came through with a payout for the novices. So there was some additional excitement in the paddock. That was great for tire sales because people were more interested in putting on new tires, even for the novice race. Like you guys have talked about it. We talked about it. It was good for everything. It promoted competition, but competition also promoted more of a family atmosphere too. Like people were willing to help each other, make sure they were on the track, so they had their battle buddies out there and trying to race because nobody wants to win a championship by somebody not showing up, right? So there was a lot of great things the club did this year. Remington, I talk to him a lot now since I'm a big dirt bike guy. But he's a badass on a dirt bike, first of all. He's Vegas Torino Ironman expert champion this year, but he's a race director for USBA. And he did a flawless freaking job this year. Like I've discussed things with him, but at the end of the day, my biggest issue with that club the last few years was from a race direction standpoint. And it was flawless. Things ran super smooth and it was awesome. So USBA, thank you very much. It was great. It was great to come back and race with you guys all season and talking about competition. Like, there's guys that are going fast and my presence, I think, has made people go faster there. And at the end of the year, people had dropped seconds off their PRs and they're hot on my heels. And I think people are sick of me being undefeated and I'm challenging them to come beat me. I want fast guys to show up there and race with, and I've got that, but we want more. Right? I would love to have 5 or 6 guys that I've got to worry about at USBA. Now, Cole, you were there in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Our buddy Crease, wicked fast on the R1 now, right? So he's gonna. I'm trying to talk him into coming out to Utah rounds next year. But at the end of the day, some of the things that the USBA is doing, we're definitely going to draw more of a crowd, and it's going to give the current racers and license holders for USBA an opportunity to earn racer credits by inviting their friends and stuff like that. There's a lot of cool stuff in the works. But back to this season and this last round, right? I think this round can kind of sum up what you were talking about for a season. I think both of us, Cole, had a little bit of a struggle this last round. It's been a long summer. And I've been cursed the last couple years by the last round, bike issues.
Right.
Me, whatever. This round was no different. So Friday, the bike just acted weird and decided to not start. And when it did start, I had no electronics, but it went back to working. Okay. So I put in some laps. Saturday, we had a game plan about this new Dunlop tire that we're going to introduce to you. You heard it here first on JKMoto. There's nobody else knows about this really, except for a few of us. But I went out for first qualifying, and man, I don't know how to ride a bike without a quick shifter and an auto blipper and without traction control and engine braking and all those cool rider aids. I'm just used to riding it with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I go out and I make it down hot pit and realize I don't have a quick shifter. And I look down and check engine lights on and all the electronic aids are flashing. I'm like, man, this problem is back. Right? So I go out for Q1, put down a 130.4 with no electronics, cold, whatever in the morning. Pretty good. I was pretty stoked on it. I just needed to get a lap in and see if I could ride the bike like this since I'm having problems, right? I pull back in. I go talk to our boys at Dunlop. Ryan Richardson, his shop is an hour and a half away from the racetrack. And talk about support. These guys knew I was having issues. I needed a computer with certain software to look at whatever the codes were on my bike. And they decide that they're going to drive all the way back to Ogden, which is, again, an hour and a half probably away from the racetrack, to give me this computer. About 45 minutes later, I look down at my front wheel and my wheel was on backwards. Yes, it was me. It wasn't the bike. So I put the wheel on backwards. So when the speed ring's on the wrong way, the
I thought
ABS
that was
sensor
a secret.
I told them already, so I'll go ahead and blow it up. So,
Oh, man.
stupid me. Cole helped me. We jumped in real quick, took the wheel off, flopped it around. Didn't even go out on new tires because of this, because that was the plan, but I didn't have the bike running right? So turned the wheel around the right direction, went out there and went 29.6, well, 29.8, 29.6. I was like, nobody's beating that today. And qualified on pole for the final round, KOM. But that wasn't the end of it. So I immediately jumped to thinking I was having bike issues because that's what the bike was doing, and I was having issues. I didn't think I put the wheel on backwards, but that ended up being the case. So the first race, I put on this new Dunlop. It's called the R4, known in our pit as the Hello Kitty tire, or the Wagyu beef of race
Wagyu
tires.
beef, corn-fed
Wagyu.
or grass-fed?
Yeah,
I just sticking with Hello Kitty. I like that better. But
Hello Kitty is a shit. I'm sorry. Yes. Wait. So I've actually got a chance to ride on this tire 8 months ago, and Chuckwalla, and it's pretty impressed. But it was still in development stages, and so now this is a production tire. It's not something at the current time that will be available to the professionals, which is weird, right? This tire is designed for the club racer. And the idea behind this tire is that it's got grip like an R3. So Dunlop's, the lower the number, the softer the tire, which typically relates to more grip. Not always, but most typically, right? So it is supposed to be grippy like an R3, but longevity like an R7 or 8, or at least consistency. So we're doing this testing, and if you've ever been around me, you know that in the course of a race weekend at Utah by itself, I'll probably go through 4 rear tires or 5 with practice on Friday, and 3 fronts, 4 fronts. You know, I like new tires. They're great, feel great, grip great, go fast. So Dale from Racer's Edge and the Trackstar boys, Dunlop Sport, they put one of these R4s on the back of my bike on Saturday, and a new R0 front. And we go out. I usually only do 1 race on Saturday, but I was going to do 2 for testing purposes. So we go out for the first race, and my bike dies before we even get on the track. And so I missed the window to get on track, and everybody's out there, and I had to start from hot pit. Well, in this case, there's 2 waves. There's the expert wave and then the amateur wave. And I'm obviously in the expert wave, but I have to start behind the amateur wave. So me and Cole got to battle for a couple corners as I came to say hi to him on my way by.
He scared me. I didn't know somebody was back there. I was
pissed. I was coming.
I was leading a race.
Yeah.
I was leading my race, just minding my own business. I didn't expect anybody coming from behind. I didn't know this.
I had no idea that I'd start way behind them even, you know. So, yeah, you had a sizable lead in your race, and I don't think you ever even heard the ZX-10 before you saw it, probably.
No.
But, yeah, so came around Cole. We come around. We complete the first lap. And I was saved by a very unfortunate event from our buddy Ray Sean, who's down, a CVMA guy. He had a little incident and crashed, and they threw a red flag. So then I got to actually take my grid position.
Okay.
All this is relative because of heat cycles. So it's not always about lap count and how many days can I ride on a tire. Sometimes if you ride it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, the tire will heat cycle out, and it doesn't grip the same, and it doesn't wear the same, and it doesn't feel the same. So, not knowing what this tire was going to do, I was able to take my grid position for the restart, and 29, 29, 29, 30, 30, 30.1. Like, phenomenal grip. Like, the tire is great, right? And this is technically the second heat cycle. Sure, I went back on warmers, but the warmers don't reach temperature that they ever reach on the track. So, for the knowledge of the listeners, if you are running slicks or track day tires or whatever, you go ride, and you come back, even if you slap them right on warmers, they've been heat cycled. Fair? So 1 heat cycle. And now we're 9, 10, 11. We're like 11 laps into this tire now. One first race, big winner, stoked. Got like 11 laps on this tire. Come back in, had to wait till after lunch, so I shut the warmers off and just left the bike sitting there. Again, testing, no warmers. Didn't leave them warm all day like I normally would, whatever. About an hour before my second race of the day, turn the warmers back on, go back out, 30, 30, 30, 30. The tire is just as good. Another 7 laps. So now I've got 18 race laps on this one tire, and it looks amazing. It still feels just as good as it did on lap 2. Like, zero complaints, right? So on Sunday, I raced on the same tire all day long. Not that one. I put a new one. Raced on the same R4 all day long. Consistent, extremely fast laps in high winds, which I'll get into that, but I want to end about this tire thing. So why it's important is because club racers spend a lot of money to do this. I mean, everybody does, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to a certain level, you kind of need those tires. Like Cole, you went from using R7s and R8s to now using R3s and R5s because you've gotten faster. You need the grip to go faster, so we need to use a softer tire. But typically that means you spend more on tires.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I thought Dunlop was wrong for doing this. I'm like, wow, you guys aren't going to sell as many tires because now they can throw this R4 on a bike and go just as fast on it all day long. Right? 20. I ended up with 28 race laps on one of these tires and it never fell off. I wore the dot off the thing and it still had grip. So I was like, Dunlop screwed up because they're not going to sell as many tires. But as soon as these Pirelli guys and Michelin guys catch wind of this and they realize that there's no tire out there that does what this tire does, it is the secret sauce. It is the Wagyu beef, man. It is the Hello Kitty business. So they're gonna put all these Pirelli guys on these tires. I mean, there's just no way that anybody does it. If they get Pirelli, Michelin, all these guys, they better step up their game if they're gonna keep up with that thing. So huge shout out.
What about me?
What did you think of it?
Because guess what, Easton?
You also ran it.
Our friends at Dunlop were nice enough to let an amateur try one of these.
Which may, no offense to Lugnut here, but that's almost equally as important.
It is.
Right?
It very much.
Because you've got the pace to give it a good. Sorry, you've got the pace to give it a good test at a hot pace. And Cole, I'm not trying to doubt your pace here or anything like that, but it's important to let the audience you're going to sell it to test the item, right? That's awesome. What did you think?
Absolutely. So I should have brought my notes. We took notes. So for me, normally, I'm going to get back to this tire real quick, but I want to bounce back just a little bit to something that Anthony said. He mentioned that they pay for amateur rounds. There's a class that has a payout. And for anybody out there, any of you club organizers, anything that thinks that doesn't bring anything to the table, this is my first full year racing, but my second year racing. Mm-hmm. We always talk about how friendly the paddock is. We always talk about that on here. No matter what paddock we go to, we haven't found too many things that could be deemed negative, right? Everybody's friendly. Everybody's supportive in any of these paddocks you go to. I raced there for a year and a half. When the money came on, all of a sudden I know everybody in the class. They're coming by the paddock to talk to me. I didn't even know these people's name before, but now they're like, how was that last race? What tire are you going to run on the next one? It brought our little clique, that particular class that I raced this year. It brought that little clique together. Everybody wanted to talk about it. All of a sudden people are noticing. Anthony, you mentioned selling tires. In an amateur class, there's a lot of times people go out there and it's not so much, it's a money thing. You go out and you're like, should I put a fresh tire on for this class? I don't really need to win it. There's no money involved. It's all just pride. I guarantee that class that was paying, I don't mean to make the money trivial either, but the money for winning that 2-day class was enough to maybe buy a rear tire. I promise you, everybody that was taking that serious, everybody in that class had a new tire for that race on Saturday and that race again on Sunday. Guaranteed. Whether they were using it for 5 more races, saving it for a track day after the fact, They're coming out with sticker tires for that race. That being said, I'm that guy. Is the reason I kind of had to go there. I'm that guy. I'll make sure I have a fresh one for at least that round. I got the little kitty tire. Thank you, Dale. I got to try it out. Was a little weird right out of the gate. It was the way it broke in, the way it came in was a little bit different than I was used to. I was told to put some good heat in it on the warm-up lap or on the siding lap and make sure your tire warmers were hot. Get that thing up to temperature. Do everything you can to have it to temperature. For about the first half of a lap, it felt different than the R3 I was used to. Not necessarily bad. Different. There was just something a little different about it. That thing came on, and I felt it come on, and it felt like a fresh R3 for the remainder of the race. I had an 11-lap race. I normally go through that race, and I feel the tire coming down. Like, you get about halfway through that, and you can start to tell that your tire's starting to step down, starting to go away. Never got that. Similar experience to Anthony. Took it back. It was right. That race was right before lunch. I just took it back, put the warmers on, but didn't plug them in. Let it sit for like 3 hours. Went out and did a whole nother race with it. Didn't bother changing tires, didn't whatever. And it came out fresh, solid. And that was a 7-lap race. Never noticed any drop off. Felt as good as, the first lap. That is still on my bike right now. And man, if I can find a race to go to, I'm going to put another 20 or 30 laps on it.
So you got it on Saturday?
Got it on Saturday.
And you used it all weekend?
I didn't get it till the end of the day on Saturday, so I ran it for all my races.
You used it all day on Sunday.
Okay, all day on Sunday. All right, got it.
But the test was this. The test was, how does it heat cycle?
Mm-hmm.
How does it come on? And how does it last? And then what's our outright pace, right? So like all these important factors. And it checked every box. I think the only thing that was kind of weird is that if you didn't abuse that thing on your out lap, like when you go take your grid spot from hot pit, if you don't abuse that tire, then maybe the first half of the lap is still coming into its own.
But for a club racer, if you have qualifying in the morning and this tire's got the life to last all day, you only need one good lap in qualifying.
Yes. So you can go out there and put some heat in it, and then you can lay down a heater, right? So I was actually talking with Dale because being into some stock car stuff, some of these guys, they scrub their tires, meaning they'll go out there and do like a 70% lap to break in the tires, and then they'll go. And that's a big thing for street guys, right? Street guys are always like, hey, should I scrub my tires or whatever? Probably a good idea for street. I've never been a believer in that for motorcycle tires. But I think the next test we'll do is like, hey, let's go put 2 laps on this thing in the morning and then put it back on later in the day and just see how it does right out of the gate, So it's evolving, but the facts are this, like the tire is the truth. It is amazing. It's the Dunlop R4. It'll be available in the 200 and the 180 sizes for the 600 guys and the 1000 guys. I don't know if the 180's out yet, but the 200s are. So any of you club racers on 1000cc bikes, go see your local Dunlop provider and tell them that you want the Hello Kitty tire. Now, they may not all know what that is, so remember it's the R4.
Yeah.
Now just tell them you want the Wagyu beef. Yo, give me that beef. Give me that special sauce. I know you got it.
Calling it. And shout out to Stacy because she's the reason why it's the Hello Kitty tire. So quick backstory on that. When these tires came out, the first time they hit land in the States, they came from Japan. So the Japanese Dunlop factory came up with this formula. It's all about chemicals and compounds and all this crap. So they bring a pallet of these tires, and they had Joe Roberts, and they had Josh Hayes, and a couple other legends of the sport testing this thing at Chuckwalla. So Corey Alexander and I both got one for the shootout because that track is pretty abrasive, and so it was beating up the soft tires. Corey he broke the track record on lap 9 of the shootout with his tire, and we weren't able to make an R3 last that strong and that long, right? So we knew it was going to be good, but it was all hush-hush. And so when we were talking about Stacy and I, she's super smart, got a great sense of humor. You guys met her. So she's also an artist, and so she takes out a paint pen and she does a whole Hello Kitty thing on it because it came from Japan, so she thought, that's funny or whatever. And Dale seen that going out for the race, and he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's a Hello Kitty tire. So that's why it all started that way. So shout out, babe. Hello Kitty tire, coined, dubbed.
There you go.
Yeah, back to
It's
the race.
awesome. You might want to take them Shih Tzus off of your bike and get you an R4 on there.
All right. Well,
That's
I'm
a
still going to go
bestseller.
test them just because I'm curious. But that is actually kind of, when you brought it up. Anyway, yeah.
What?
Good. We're already
Finish
at
it.
hour 4, dude. It's okay. We're gonna go all night. Let's go.
Oh, I was just going to say the Metzler track day slick that I'm going to go test here in November. I think it'll be a good test. The biggest difference there is I would say that it aims for a lower level for a track day slick. You're not supposed to need warmers for it at all, right?
And for the record, before all the Metzler guys get mad at me, when I said the Shih Tzu tire, I was making fun of Chinese tires, not
Yeah, the Shinko slick.
the Shinkos. That's the, word I was actually
The
looking
Shih
for.
Shinko
Tzu.
drag slick.
'Cause
Also,
we
real quick
we
note
joke about
on scrubbing in tires. You're that way. Yeah, that scrubbing process comes from a chemical that's left over when you remove the tire from the mold, and
Yeah.
that chemical comes off with heat. And so,
Right.
if you take your street tires to the track and you put tire warmers on, or you do a couple of hot laps, you don't need to scrub them in.
Yeah.
It's not about the lean angle you get out on the street. It's not like, oh, have I scrubbed in the whole circumference of the tire? It's about the heat that's in it that'll bake that chemical off. And you throw tire warmers on there for, I don't even think you have to get them full up to temp, but ain't got to worry about it. So, just for the info there. Huh?
We need one smart guy in the group. That's you. No. Dude, I wish I could poke you in the ear from here. Back to racing, USBA. 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds went good. I had a perfect season. In all fairness, there was one race I was in that I didn't win, but I was there just to fill the grid. Do you remember that, Cole?
I remember.
Rain tires, dry track.
Best $500 you ever spent, right?
I was pissed. Anyways, but that was not a KOM race, and so by undefeated, we're talking about the premier race KOM. So Sunday's KOM race. Sunday this round, super windy. It was like 20, 30 miles an hour wind on the east track.
It was pretty bad. Pretty bad.
And it was gusting and swirling a little bit, but mostly it was crossing the track in a matter of which that it was affecting every corner. Some corners it would push you into, some corners it would push you away from on exit, some corners you couldn't get down to the curbing without adjusting your lines. So
there was turn 8, Easton.
We were on the west.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Turn 8. You're familiar. Coming into 8. There's a way I set that up. There's a way everybody sets it up, right? But the way I personally set it up, I would come in. I'm expecting to put knee over candy cane at a certain point, and the wind would hit you, and I'd be driving over the candy cane. And so the next time I'd come around and I'd go, don't do that again. Stay a little wide, and then the wind wouldn't hit you.
Yeah, then there's no wind, and
then you'd just be wide.
That's the worst part about wind. I feel like wind would be like isolated puddles.
Very much.
But even isolated puddles you can figure out because you can remember, okay, the puddles are here, here, and here. The wind's just like, gotcha. Nope. Yeah. Gotcha. And just,
Dude, it was scary. You turn 2 on West, which you come out of turn 1, and then you go into turn 2, which is kind of like a fast sort of sweeping right. But the wind was coming straight across that. So like you would tip in and at speed because, so like in the KOM, I took off, got a decent start drag racing to turn 1, but I won the drag race, and I didn't care how fast anybody else was going. I'm racing myself sometimes, like just for time or whatever. And I was testing his tires. And so there was a lot going on for me. I tipped into turn 2 at speed, and man, you could feel the front end getting pushed. Yeah, because the wind was so strong and it was pushing across. It was sketchy, dude.
Yeah, I believe it.
But I mean, I put the first half of the race was 30, 30, 30, and low 30s, and again, a credit to the tires and the setup. And, it was neat because I was doing something a little bit different every lap, trying to compensate for the wind to try and keep it that pace. And the last laps of the race, it was 31-1. So not really falling off that much, considering I'm doing something different every single time and having to fight the wind the entire lap. So not only was it an undefeated season, and not only did I have bike problems as usual, but me and Stacy, shout out again, took it all apart on Saturday and put it back together. Didn't fix anything. Took it apart, put it back together, unplugged shit, plugged shit back in, and it worked just fine.
I watched my back.
Yes.
Hurt.
Yeah.
For 4 hours.
4
Oh
hours.
shit! Look at that. Bam.
Had to throw it in.
So yeah, she helped me. We got it back together. Everything worked great on Sunday, flawlessly. Race one in the morning, going fast, adjusting for the win. But ran the same damn tire the same way. I'd put a new tire on for KOM or whatever usually. Ran the same tire, 28 race laps on one tire. Times were good all day. Won the KOM. They brought some champagne, which was fun.
This is Utah. Was it alcoholic?
Yes. And
Wow.
so our boy Steve Marco, I don't know what his consumption of alcohol is, but the poor guy, I think he took a sip and it got to him because I have a screenshot of a video, which I'm not going to show publicly, but it's coming out his freaking nose. And I'm like, dude, that had to hurt.
Champagne in the nose. Yeah.
But it was a cool
anything
element.
bubbly.
It was a cool element. And, we're not going to get into this tonight. You guys can talk about it on your own or a whole different thing. But I sent you guys both a list of things that racers would look for in a club to travel to, and like, why would you drive 6 or 8 hours to go club race with a different club that you're not used to racing with? Like, what can the club do to make it more exciting or more worth your travels? And one of the things that was on there was like podium celebrations. So the USBA bringing out the champagne. We had the Burt brothers. They're handing out these big checks. I won $1,000, got to spray some champagne and had a blast doing it. Like, it was just a good, solid wrap up on the season,
Yeah.
Great year at USBA racing. So I ended up winning another number 1 plate, another cardboard plate. Seriously, actually paper plate this time. They drew a number 1 on a piece of paper.
Yeah, isn't that some long going joke?
Yes.
Their podium celebrations have definitely been upped since then, but we got to keep the tradition alive.
Yes. So, and you know what? I love it because everybody took a moment and signed it, and it's a big family thing. Even though some people are probably sick of me up there, it's too bad. I'm coming back, maybe, hopefully. Yeah, it was great, man. A great season at USBA. Some of the stuff we talked about, and I want Cole to talk a little bit more about his successes this year too, because he had a kick-ass year, and I'm super proud of his progress and what he's able to accomplish. But just my note, like, sponsors, we talk about sponsoring riders, and obviously that's a big help for guys like me, guys like all of us doing this, but also the clubs. Like, if your model fits sponsoring a race club a little bit better than it would an individual rider, you can make a huge difference to the riders and to the sport by getting involved with the club. And I know the USBA is stepping their game up. So if anybody's listening to this, local to Utah, national companies want to get involved, you can reach out to these guys at JK. They can point you in the right direction. You can reach out to me, and I'd be happy to talk to you about what that looks like as well. But, let us promote you, put some money back into the sport, and we'll do some fun things with it.
Yeah. Well, and just real quick on that before we get to Cole's minute or two, that the Burt Brothers checks.
Yes.
Are these giant checks. And you mentioned, it's also part of the podium celebration. I think it's kind of cool to hold this big old giant check up, be like, look at how much money I made. And even if it's not a big amount, it's cool.
But $1,000 though, I mean, that's pretty good, dude. And
yeah.
they did that all 5 rounds. It was 1,000 win, 500 for second, and 250, I think it was, for third. That's a lot of money to put up. But I tell you how that works is I literally had to get an oil change and tires rotated and some stuff like that. The first person I went to, Burt Brother.
Yeah.
We're gonna support you.
And not just you, but anytime you put your picture out on Instagram, any other motorcycle guy that sees that they're supporting the club is going to want to go support them, right? So our family community is going to take our support where you give it,
and that's how the sport works. I mean, Cole, you have your business and you needed an IT guy, and an IT company sponsors a race class at CVMA, and Cole was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Let's see what you're about then, because I need your services and I'd rather support somebody who supports what we do.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it works. So if you're listening to this, and it doesn't matter if you're laying brick or roofing or tire service or motorcycle related, none of it. I mean, we all need all kinds of things in our life. So if you got a company and you want to promote it and you like motorcycles or motorsports, the opportunity's there and you're going to benefit from it. Just saying, hit us up.
And honestly, it's not a huge commitment.
It's not that bad.
You can put your name all over it.
Bird Brothers was a title sponsor, so they dropped 15 grand or whatever this year, you know. But it doesn't always have to be that either. It could be a smaller thing too, you know. So
Yeah.
Just to touch on the champagne real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yours is the best, by the way.
No, it was really bad. I'm a little bit embarrassed about that video I've now watched 500 times.
I did watch the video.
Well,
He didn't think he was going to win a championship based off that video. Never practiced at home.
so you're right.
He wasn't being presumptuous.
I wasn't being presumptuous. I forgot you had to put your thumb over the end of it, first off.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you go back and watch that video, Richard Umpleby, I am sorry. I never got a chance to apologize to you. You took off. But I think so. Our podium celebration was directly after Anthony's podium celebration. I think Anthony threatened some people. There may be lawsuits. I'm not sure. He had threatened some people about if they touched him with any of that. You know, he didn't want to be sticky.
He's still got one more race left to do in that suit.
I did.
I had a race 5 minutes after that. Like I was late to get my drawers on to get out for my next race. And so on the podium, we all kind of looked at each other and I was like, I'm going to race right now. And Richard Umpleby says, I'm going to race right now. And Dan Christiani, excuse me, was on the other side of me. And I said, I don't even know if I know how to do this, but I'm thinking to myself, don't get it on me because I don't want to be sticky, right? I got to go race. And I didn't have the testicular fortitude. There's a word for you, Anthony. I didn't cuss him ahead of time and say, don't get a drop on me or I'll kill you. Lawsuit be damned, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of held the ball out like this and just, you know, I'm participating, but I'm really thinking about the next race. And I got sprayed.
Were you sticky?
In the heat of the moment, if you go back and watch that video, in the heat of the moment, at the end of that video, I figured out that you put your thumb over the end and you shake it, and then you turn it, and you blast the guy next to you that accidentally got some on you.
You're actually supposed to blast the crowd.
Well, that's what the point is here. Is like nobody did it right? So
Yeah.
But Umpleby was like turned towards Cole and sprayed him, and Cole looked at him like, I'm gonna kill you. And he just doused him with champagne right in the eyeballs. It was I don't say it was angry, but it was a little angry at the same time too. Like, well, dude, sprayed me, I got you back.
You're right, it wasn't angry, but I can say that I honestly, you know, that next race, the smell of alcohol was prominent in my helmet, I'll be honest.
So are you drinking and driving?
Dude, they almost didn't let me race because everybody took a shot of that champagne on the podium, but I was still racing. Marco and Brian Childry were done, so you know, congrats on your podiums, but they took a swig, and I was, oh yeah, take a swig. And you guys, I don't drink much, so a swig of champagne might have been enough to, you know, maybe.
How were the lap times after?
Dunlop R4. What do you think?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. The bike rides itself, bro. Kawasaki and Dunlops, they're phenomenal.
It's not you. It's not the bike. It's that you don't have a Dunlop R4.
Yeah, but
there's the answer to your rider's tip. Go get you some R4s and forget about everything else.
But it was fun. If I get the opportunity to do that again next year, I will, you know, put my thumb over the end of it and go ahead and, you know.
I'm practicing in the off season. Matter of fact, this out. I got something to show you. This is why I suck at champagne. This is the last champagne bottle I won in a podium. CRA. Top still on it. Never had any practice.
There you go. All right. So everyone that thinks they're fast, first thing you got to do.
Practice with champagne.
Just go to the store, get a bottle of champagne, and practice how to.
Come out to
it's like that meme. It's like that meme with the kid on the podium where he's chewing on the metal. And he's in like 5th place, and he's like spraying the champagne. Have you seen? You know what I'm talking about? Probably not.
I think so.
Anyways, so Cole, how many championships you win this year?
1, 2, 3, 4, 3.
3.
3 times chump. Oh, boy.
3-time chump.
What classes?
We won the novice vintage GTO.
So glad that's freaking over with.
Yeah. Retire the old girl.
Dude, kick it out of
back
the
on the
truck
shelf.
on the freeway at 80
Hey,
miles.
don't say anymore because I was going to bring that up. I know we're running a little long. I was going to bring that up though. I've got the new
For
cell.
sale.
I have two 2010 BMWs, never been down.
You guys should do
In
a
Montana. Never been down in Montana.
You guys should do a JKMoto raffle, $100 raffle ticket, and
We'll talk offline.
We're gonna sell 100 tickets.
Nah,
And
put it in the comments.
No, it's happening. If you guys want to win a raffle, if you guys want to win 2 2010 BMW S1000s, you can win them for a $100 raffle ticket. There's gonna be 100 raffle tickets sold. A $100 raffle ticket gets you in the business. DM JKMoto podcast to get your raffle tickets.
There you go. On Instagram.
Perfect. That's done.
It'll
He
be
really doesn't want me bringing that bike back out.
No, he doesn't.
I'm gonna buy 5 of those just so I can use some tannerite on the fucking thing.
You're making it sound like it's a bad bike.
Hey, dude, that
it's a
thing
great
won a
bike.
championship. All right.
Won a championship.
Yeah.
It's championship winning bike, never down, adult ridden slow. I can verify
No, but that was just rude. Now, check this out. Today, so we have a survey that we got to fill out for the USBA. And in that survey, not to give anything away, but they were talking about maybe some endurance racing next year. And I said, hell yeah, I'm in. If
I got
it's
a 2010 S1000 RR that's perfect for that.
No, I didn't say that. But I do have a Husqvarna 401 that I was like, that'd be fun endurance bike.
You're crazy, dude.
No windshield, man.
So I'm on the mission for fairings. I can't find any fairings. They don't make fairings for it. So I was like, I wonder if the RC390 one's a bolt on. You know, I was doing some looking around today, whatever. And I come across this bike that's out there on the interweb for sale. 2010 BMW S1000 RR, yellow numbers, for sale. Never been down. And I said, you should go faster. And then it said in the article, you get 2 bikes for the price of 1 because he's got all the stock fairings. That's what it says. So I'm telling you, I'll give you 3 bikes for the price of 1. It'll be wonderful. It has been down. I don't want to lie. It has been down before.
It's never been down in the state of Montana.
That's true.
Fact.
That's true.
Have you ever seen Transformers?
Yes.
Where he's hawking his grandfather's stuff to buy his first car, which ended up being Bumblebee. The first Transformers. You're doing that right now. I'm just saying. So
help me out. Anybody want some vintage 2010 BMW S1000s, street legal, titles in hand?
Never been down in the state of Montana.
Never been down in the state of Montana.
Never ridden by Lugnut.
Never ridden by Lugnut.
Hang on, didn't you take it to the grid?
No.
I thought you rode it to the grid.
I mean, that don't count.
You rode it. We're being truthful here.
Dude,
Does that make it worth more money or less money?
Don't
It's had an undefeated USBA King of the Mountain world. Yeah. USBA King of the Mountain world champion.
Dude, my damn trophy better say that.
I'll write it on the plate.
I told you to drop that first off.
I'm dropping everything. I'm saying that was funny. All right,
I'll get Anthony to sign said BMW S1000.
Oh yeah, I'll sign it too. It's had Lugnut on it. Lugnut on it.
All right. Enough about this freaking BMW.
Don't
you won the
BMW.
vintage class. What other classes did you win? That's 1 of 3.
Stock 1000 novice.
Okay.
And
the novice GTO.
That was the money class, right?
That was the money class.
Oh yeah.
That's
So
a 2-day class.
Now back to humble pie. Because what?
Yeah, man.
So you're
There's not
champion,
gonna
you're
be
novice
any-
champion. You're gonna go back there and you're gonna beat all those novices again next year because you're a sandbagger and that's what you would do, right?
No, I ain't no sandbagger. We already talked to the wrap guy. We're getting the white numbers put on.
Hell yeah.
And here we go.
So at USBA, it's kind of cool. They have all these classes, right? And actually, a little inside info. That's going to change a little bit for next year. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity still. And so USBA has like your novice extended race or GTO. Then they have a combined GTO where it has experts and novices that race against each other. And then they have the KOM for the fastest of the experts, right? Is how USBA looks at it. So there's like a stepping stone, so you don't have to go immediately grid up with the fastest guy in the club. But Cole ain't no, and he's putting on his white plates and he's going straight to KOM because next year you're going to see a Precision Fab Machinery double podium.
Right.
It's happening. Cole's going to end up on the podium at KOM in 2025 USBA with Lugnut.
I'm writing that down.
Write it down. Don't forget about the 5 crashes for Bagnaia and Marquez.
Wrote that down also.
Sweet. Thank you.
We got it.
Yeah.
I also wrote down that one time that you said you would.
Don't.
Anyway.
I still owe you dinner.
Yep.
I know. I haven't forgot, dude. When was the last time? I mean, the last time I tried to get you to go to dinner with me and you.
I thought I got
bought
paid.
all this food in the
That's
yard.
true. That's fair.
I thought I got paid back with the 4 hours.
No, that was a freebie. Plus,
I would count it, but
I'm not counting it. I was going to take it off of the family show direction again for just 1 second, but I won't. So, that wouldn't take 4 hours. But easy,
Wow.
easy.
we're just gonna end the show.
No,
I think
we're not done yet. Yes. USBA, hell of a year. Great job, Cole. Congratulations on your championships. Thank you for adding an element of severity to what I did this year. It was obviously not just go out there and do it and be crowned a champion. Like I have some pace there, and I rode my ass off, and we did the damn thing. So another number 1 plate for the Nevada resident in Utah. Just
You're
saying.
taking all sorts of liberties here today.
I am. But, come out and ride with us, man. If you're listening to this show and you've never been to Utah, if you're one of those guys in Colorado, we drove up there to ride with you. Bring your asses down to Utah and let us bang bars down in Utah, man. The track's super fun. There's places to stay, hotels, great places to eat. We could all get kicked out of an Applebee's together. That's always fun. We're getting pretty good at that.
Good question.
Yeah.
That big old check.
Yeah.
Do I have to be a member of the club to win the check?
So, at USBA, they'll let you win money on a reciprocity license. Not all clubs do that. So, there's 0 excuses. Just get down to Utah. The schedule is going to be released before you know it. We're already working on that. So, we're planning in accordance with, hopefully, with Moto America, so there's no overlapping and stuff like that there as well. But we had great turnouts the last 2 rounds, and the turnouts are going to be even better next year. But I'm telling you guys, if you're not traveling from Colorado to come race Utah, if you're not coming out from California, if you're not coming down from Washington, we've been to all these places. We've raced with you guys, so quit making excuses and come down and race with us. I'm sick of that shit. I'm going to keep going to you. You got to come to me, though.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, he'll be in New Jersey in 4 days. So if you're in New Jersey, get out to Utah.
Yeah, what the hell is your problem?
That's true, though, because you're privateering. It's not like you're going out there with a race team where you're guaranteed a spot on the grid. You're privateering with people from New Jersey and racing them.
Everybody on that grid, except for me and Mike, have raced at New Jersey Motorsports Park. It's facts. We're going all the way across the country on a whim. I still don't have more than a half of a lap of rain experience, and it's probably going to rain. We're going to send it, dude. We're going to go out there and do the damn thing because that's what racers do, man. Like, no excuses, no BS. Like, if this is what you're involved with, just pucker up and get her done.
Have bike, will travel.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, message of the night. Closeout statements. Everyone, I think we got special sauce, Hello Kitty, R4s are the meat and potatoes.
The Wagyu meat.
If you own a business, know someone that owns a business that's interested in getting some good tax write-offs and wants to support motorcycle racing, let us know. You can find us on Instagram at JKMoto Podcast, and I can hook you up with Lugnut if you want to specifically talk to Lugnut. I can get you over there. Also at Lugnut_521
I should probably change that, but yeah.
on Instagram. Yeah, it should just be _1. But number 2, number 1.
No, I've got to. Anyway.
2 number 1s.
Yes, that's what I was talking about.
5 number 2 number 1. Anyway, and then finally, if you're only racing at your local track and you haven't thought about traveling yet, it's time to think about it. You probably already have a trailer and a truck. It's a little bit extra fuel money. That's the only difference, honestly. Realistically, you just travel a little further. It's a little more fuel and like one extra McDonald's stop. So you could probably afford it. And with a new R4, you're going to save so much money on not buying as many tires. And the purse the USBA offers anyway, if you think you can beat Cole and Lugnut.
What are you waiting for?
Yeah, what's the reason not to? I can't see a reason here.
Yeah, keep it fun. Keep it interesting. Sorry, that's a whole other road that we didn't mean to go down, but Anthony, as you always say, if you want to get better, travel. Go to some other tracks. See some new corners.
Yeah, go to Road Atlanta. Jump your bike. That's great.
Try not to die. Go fast. Have fun. That's my closing statement always.
Drink water.
Drink water. Go faster. Have funner.
All right, sweet. Thank you for sticking with us through this awesome episode. We got through MotoGP and a few other things and finished off nice and strong. Would like to thank the listeners for joining us week after week. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep racing, and so should you. That's everything I got. We'll see you guys all next week.
See you next time.
Thank you, guys.